Look, a lot of you guys know I have been talking about video games for a very long time. I've actually been playing video games for much longer than that. I can remember all kinds of classic game consoles coming into the house when I was a kid, and I don't want to give away my age, but I've been playing games since Pong came home. Let's put it that way. So I've played a little bit of everything, and I cover a little bit of everything in the gaming space, so it's taken me a bit to get to the MetaQuest 3, but I have to say that this device is absolutely incredible. It's one of my favorite things of 2023, as a matter of fact. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my experience with this device, but also the games that I have been enjoying on it, because that's really what this is all about. Sure, you can watch videos and you can have other types of entertainment experiences on the MetaQuest 3, but it's about the games, and Meta has not forgotten that. They have invested heavily in some great games, and they have invested heavily in some partnerships that are going to benefit anybody that jumps into the Quest platforms. And the MetaQuest 3 is the best, obviously, of all of the Quest devices, and I've never seen or played or reviewed the MetaQuest Pro, but just based on the specs and sort of looking at the price point of the MetaQuest Pro, I wouldn't go that way because I'm more about the games, let's be honest. The thing about me as a player and as a reviewer is that I'm not just explicitly VR, I talk about everything, and so that's kind of my perspective on this device and also the Quest platform in general. Is just how does it stack up for an entertainment enthusiast that is lucky enough to have a bunch of different consoles and play games in a bunch of different ways. And it's not really to pit these different technologies or these different platform holders against each other, but how does it fit into an already busy gamer's life and diet and appetite, you know? And I have to say that the MetaQuest, and I love the MetaQuest 2 as well, I raved about it. It was an incredible device. I still have one in the house, and we will still use it as a family. But the MetaQuest devices, because you don't have to tether them to anything, have just been extraordinarily easy to jump in and start having fun. And the MetaQuest 3 ratchets that up considerably. A big part of the reason why is the pass-through cameras, and that idea that you are in an environment that you can still see, and you just have to tap the side of the headset and poof, you're right back in your living space, or in my case, I do most of my gaming in my basement space right here. But of course, that pass-through technology also helps with lots of interesting ideas for video games. I'm going to talk about those in a second, but first, let's talk a little bit about the technology in the MetaQuest 3. For starters, the Quest 3 has an asking price of $650 Canadian or $500 American for the 128 gigabyte model. That's the review model that the Meta team sent me to take a look at, and I think that is the model that you should be looking at unless you are a VR diehard and you know you're going to invest in this, and you're probably going to invest in batteries and straps and all kinds of attachments to make your VR experience incredible. I think for most people, that 128 gig model is fine because it's easy to offload games and just download new games. It's very quick, it's very easy, it's got a great Wi-Fi system inside of it. So I'd say stick with the 128 gig model. Now in terms of power, we've got a Snapdragon XR2 Gen 2 chip there from Qualcomm, which was specifically made for VR and AR experiences. So it's very powerful, it's much more powerful, which you'll see immediately from what was available to us in the Quest 2, which is still a fantastic headset, don't get me wrong. Another major improvement are the two RGB cameras on the front of the device that give you an 18 ppd or pixels per degree resolution, so things look pretty darn sharp. They don't look like you're looking through your eyeballs or anything like that. It's not completely seamless, but you can do cool things like turn down the brightness on your phone or your watch, and you can actually get messages and see and read things on screens. You don't feel quite so cut off from the world, and as nifty as that is just to kind of place you inside your environment and have these AR elements, it also can add some pretty interesting mechanics in terms of gameplay, which I'll talk about here in a second. There are integrated speakers on the side of the headset, just like there were in the Quest 2. They don't sort of puff out sound quite the same way that the Quest 2 does. It feels a little bit more organic, and there's spatial audio built in, but they sound kind of similar to what I was hearing on the Quest 2. There's 8 gigabytes of DRAM on the Quest 3. The display resolution is 2064 by 2208 pixels per eye, which is a 30% improvement on the Quest 2. The Quest 3 display also features 25 ppd, pixels per degree, or 1218 ppi, pixels per inch, in terms of its resolution, and the refresh rates go from 72 all the way up to 120 hertz, which is remarkable. There's a horizontal field of view at 110 degrees on the Quest 3. It's 96 vertically. It was 90 horizontal and vertically on the Quest 2, so that's a pretty big improvement there. Although I didn't find that quite as dramatic in practical use as it kind of reads when you're looking at all the specs on a page. It's really the new pancake lenses in the Quest 3 and that increased resolution that are the standouts of this device. Everything just looks really crisp and really sharp, and now that the developers are taking advantage of the increased horsepower of this device and they're adding new textures and details, things are just like beautiful on the screen. They're not quite at the gorgeousness of some of the best looking stuff on PSVR 2, but it's approaching that, and we're talking about the standalone VR experience. I'm not even talking about the ability to broadcast the stuff that you'll stream from your PC, which is pretty incredible as well. Now, the device doesn't have eye tracking like the PSVR 2 does, or I think the Quest Pro does as well, although I've not had my hands on that device. Eye tracking is pretty damn formidable. It's very cool when it's working, so maybe that's going to be something that Meta works into future iterations on the Quest platform. And I've already touched on this, but the other really cool standout feature of the Quest 3, of course, is the many ways that you can wirelessly or in a wired capacity connect to your PC and have PC VR experience in all of their full fidelity broadcast into the headset, and it's incredible. And Xbox has just partnered with Meta to bring the Xbox Game Pass app, and so you can play cloud versions of the games available to you on Game Pass. So you can play these flat screen Xbox games on a virtual screen in your VR space, which is pretty damn impressive. And of course, you can connect an Xbox controller up to the Meta Quest, and it'll just feel like you're lost in your own cyberspace playing all of these Xbox games, which is really cool. A couple other quick things to note about the Quest 3 is that the straps on the device are pretty soft and pretty comfortable. I think they've done a pretty solid job at just popping that on, and it fits your head snugly and tightly, and it's quick and easy. I have had no issues with the strap, but I know people have out there, and there are lots of aftermarket devices and accessories that you can pick up to make it even more comfortable for you. They've also made it much easier to adjust the interpupillary distances. All you have to do is rotate a little knob on the bottom of the device, and you kind of square things up on your face. It's also about the same weight as the Quest 2, but it sits a little bit flatter on your face because of the pancake lenses. I just found the device a lot more comfortable than the Quest 2. I didn't have to change any of the padding on the facial interface like I did on the Quest 2. Everything right out of the box for me, and every face, every head is going to be different, but for me, this has just been very comfortable and very seamless and very easy to jump in and start enjoying it. The only major thing that sticks out is that the battery life, especially I think because we're playing in AR, it's interesting because you take the VR experience into your augmented space, and it's like you're taking your game in almost like a physical form and bringing it into your world, because you can see your world everywhere. And I think that sort of gets you playing in it a little bit more. And so that, 1.5 to 2 hours of battery life goes by quick. But I have been finding that that's about my sort of limit on how much I want to play with the Quest 3. It's usually around that time where the battery is saying, okay, there's a warning, please plug in the device, the battery's going to die, is when I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to sit down now for a little bit. I'm just going to chill and watch something or play something on a flat screen. So it hasn't been an issue for me, but I know that if you get sucked in, you're going to want a battery pack or tether it to some charge thing or something like a long cable, which kind of removes the idea of it being tetherless and so effortless to just jump in. It's an issue because the experiences are getting better and it's so fun and you just want the battery to last a little bit longer. But it's also been, for me, an okay time to take a break as well. So it's an interesting thing. And I'm sure the scientists that put this device together did a lot of, back and forth about weight issues and how long the battery was going to last and everything. And they just kind of had to find a concession point that worked for them. I think they mostly did. But you know what? It's not just about the technology and the specifications and all the cool gadgets that these devices have. It's about the games. Let's talk about some of the stuff that I've been playing on the Meta Quest 3. And I talked a little bit about some of these games and some of my experiences with this device in the hardware buyer's guide that I put together for the holidays. And so I looked at games like Eye of the Temple, which is kind of like this Indiana Jones simulation puzzle experience. I really dug that. I played the new Ghostbusters Rise of the Ghost Lord game, and I actually had this little kid jump in and start playing with me, and he was bossing me around. It was pretty damn fun because it's a multiplayer Ghostbusters game, and it's pretty cool. I really enjoyed the Assassin's Creed Nexus experience. This is the full VR, what you can imagine an Assassin's Creed game to be. You are in the boots of Ezio Auditore, and you are cruising around, and you're assassinating the bad guys, and you're leaping off of rooftops. You're trying to sneak and stay stealthy, and you can use your hidden blade and take out some of the bad guys as well, get into sword fights and stuff. It's really freaking cool. I can't wait to get back and play some more of that over the holidays. I've been playing the classics, the standards that you have to play on any VR device out there, Beat Saber and Pistol Whip. I love Res Infinite, and I love Tetris Effect Connected. Those are always on every VR headset that I ever check out, and they're wonderful on the MetaQuest 3. I also have a new found favorite in Runner, and Runner is this super cool Blade Runner meets Akira kind of cyberpunky type deal where you're cruising around on a motorbike and you're taking out all kinds of targets and things. It's just really slick in its styling. It looks like you're playing a cartoon, and it's so damn cool. I love Runner. It's an excellent VR experience. But what I've been playing most recently, there's a couple. Lego Bricktales VR, which I heard about. It looked kind of like an interesting gimmicky type thing where you've got a whole bunch of Lego on a table and you're moving a little character around and you're putting pieces together to solve these little puzzle moments within the game. And it looks a lot like other Lego video games, but what you can do with Lego Bricktales VR is you can actually pop it into AR and you can have the Lego table just floating in front of you. And you can move the table around using the Touch Plus controllers, the new Touch Plus controllers that come with the MetaQuest 3, which are terrific, by the way. And you can reach into actual specific points where you're actually clicking together Lego pieces just like you would on an actual table. It is mind-blowingly cool, especially when you're playing in AR and you can see your room all around you. You're completely lost in this little intricate kind of diorama that you're piecing together, literally piecing together, and you're trying to solve these little areas and help your little robot around, and you're talking to this Doc Brown type mad scientist uncle of yours that is trying to put pieces of machinery together and portals and stuff together. So there's like this fantasy veneer across all of the design of this title, but it's very charming. I've got more to play with it. I can't wait to play this with my daughter. I think she's going to love it. I talked to her about it and I showed her a little bit of it, but I haven't put the headset on her for her to check this out. And I think I'm going to lose her a little bit when she starts playing this thing. But Lego Bricktales VR, really damn cool. You don't have to play it in AR, and I'm sure it's available for all of the other devices and other platforms as well. You can click it and play it just in VR, but I think there's something really special about playing it in AR. But I think the system seller and the game that actually came with the MetaQuest 3, I think if you pre-ordered it, and so a lot of MetaQuest 3 owners are playing this right now, but the great thing is this is also available for the MetaQuest 2, is Asgard's Wrath 2. And I reviewed Asgard's Wrath for the Rift, the PC version, the Oculus Rift that connected to the PC, and I was blown away by the ambition of that title then. It was gorgeous, it was beautiful, it was deep, and what the developers wanted to do is maintain that level of authenticity, that sort of action RPG authenticity and depth, and give you all of that agency in this really robust, massive experience. It's over 100 hours in totality of this gameplay, and it's very evocative of action RPGs like God of War. You're actually hurling your axe at the bad guys and hacking and slashing, but there's a full quest, and you're meeting all kinds of different characters, and you're customizing your character with new equipment and new abilities, and there are all of these other godlike beings and creations that you interact with, and at some points within the story of Asgard's Wrath 2, you actually become, and it changes the entire perspective. It gets you kind of looking down on this puny human world, and you're manipulating objects and stuff, so it almost becomes this akin to the Moss experience, where you as the story reader were interacting with elements in the game world, and then you'd see your little itty-bitty character move around and be able to access stuff. So in God form in Asgard's Wrath 2, that's kind of what it evokes, but for huge chunks of the game, you are just a badass swinging at bad guys and stealing their loot or taking pieces of their armor with you and crafting new things and gaining new spells and new abilities. You've got all of these different weapons and objects and things that are on your belt that you can access at any time. Finding everything and activating everything can be a little bit cumbersome because this is an intense game. This is a full game. It's a full-priced experience. Costs $70 in Canada, but it's a full game. It's like dropping you in the sandals of Kratos or something and just saying, okay, go, try to figure it out and try to survive. And you'll see, you'll take the wrong corner in a cave or something and you'll encounter bad guys that are way more powerful than you are. And you're just hacking and slashing and trying to throw the axe and, you're trying to deal with the onslaught. And sometimes the bad guys that you'll meet will be so competent, you'll hurl an axe at them and they'll catch it and throw it right back at you. And you're constantly leveling up and finding new ways to engage with the gameplay. I'm not super deep in the game because I've been traveling and I've been covering all kinds of other stuff. I've had about 4 or 5 nights with the experience. And what happens when I play with the Quest 3 is I find that I play until the battery runs out and then I let it rest and then I come back to it the next night. So I've had about 4 or 5 nights with this thing. I'm about 7 hours into the experience. I've got so much more to play, but I found out the other day that I can hurl my axe and then stop it in midair and control it and hurl it at a puzzle piece or something, or hurl it at the back of a bad guy. And the game just keeps gifting me with all kinds of new skills and abilities and all these branching kind of directions and these side quests that I have to go on. I'm finding a bunch of different ingredients for these characters that are at my home base right now. And I am just blown away. I'm also blown away by escaping into this nether world and seeing these giant witches above me, and they're kind of coaxing me and guiding me. And then there are things like daily challenges where you'll go into these challenge arenas and just try to do the best you can, and your stats are stacked up against the rest of the world out there. This is a beautiful experience, and it's just been updated as well for the MetaQuest 3 because it plays on the Quest 2, but all of the textures and details, it just looks so freaking cool. You can tell that there are some concessions visually. It's not like hyper detailed in some of these open environments that you're going into, and a lot of these corridor type areas, they go for a certain amount of time before a new thing has to load in. It's not, open branching worlds like you would find in a God of War experience, but the feeling is there. That's what's impressive. The developers at Sanzaru, the company behind this game, have all been making games for decades. They're very experienced. They know how to kind of get the most out of these devices, and they've been working on this game for years. And the target obviously was the Quest 2, so all of these enhancements and improvements. It's a system-selling game. It's one of the best VR experiences I have ever had. It's going to stand up there with Half-Life Alyx in terms of appreciation and respect. It would be amazing if there was like a hyper detail, higher resolution version of this for PC that you could play on the Quest and on PC devices as well. But Meta, I think, in terms of building and financing entertainment for these VR and AR devices, has really shifted to tetherless headsets, and I think that's their main sort of point of connection with the audience out there. And I have to be honest, I much prefer, even if I have to have some concessions in terms of visual fidelity within these games, the tetherless application is just a much more enjoyable way to play. It's just a much easier thing to do, to take it off the charger and put it on your head, and boom, you're in the experience. You're fighting giant insects and dealing with cat monster dudes that are coming at you, in Asgard's Wrath 2. It's incredible. And my whole experience so far with the Quest 3 has been phenomenal. I think the big question that a lot of people are going to have if they've already got the Quest 2 is, should they upgrade to the Quest 3? And although these experiences already, like Asgard's Wrath 2, really point me in the yes direction, I would say it's probably not a bad idea if you've already got the Quest 2 to maybe wait 6 months or a year. You're going to see more software, and you're going to see discounts, and you're going to see sales on software as well that will fully take advantage of what the Quest 3 has to offer. But in terms of the two big VR devices that I've been able to get my hands on and review and play and am still playing with in 2023, the PSVR 2 and the Quest 3, there is no question the Quest 3 is awesome. It's a bigger investment than it has been for the Quest devices so far, but it's worth it. I mean, there's just so much entertainment value. There are hundreds of games, legacy games, and great games that have been a part of the Quest lineup for a long time, which you would have full advantage of. And the fact that it can wirelessly connect or tether directly to your PC and you have access to all of that content is just a great thing. And Steam just released the app that makes it easier than ever. Like, this device is really proving itself. I think it is the VR for everybody out there, you know? And honestly, I still kind of stand by my suggestion that PlayStation should allow their tethered device, which is excellent and the resolution is excellent, to also tether to the PC and let people play PC VR experiences on that great device. I think more people would jump into the PSVR 2 ecosystem and may end up picking up a PS5 to play those exclusives, but I don't run Sony's business. Sony does that. But Meta has another winner with the Quest 3. I absolutely love this device, and I've had the most fun in VR and AR in 2023 on this thing. I can't wait to see where the Quest 3 is going to take us to next. I'm going to give the Quest 3 a 9 out of 10. The only quibble is that battery life.